final video for Abhisar, and like I promised, I have designed a few questions. Now they are not exhaustive. I want to in the beginning tell you that they are not exhaustive. There'll be more questions, many more, and as we complete the entire syllabus for grade 11, I will keep adding questions as and when I have the time to put to it. But this is just for you to get a general feel of what you need to know. The understanding of the text, remember, is important. Understanding of key elements of the poem is important. Basic features, like if you see in the MCQ questions, Upagupta lay asleep by the city walls of. I mean, all of you should know by now it is Mathura and cannot be anything else. So you see, these are very elementary. But I've also included a few questions based on the literary features, figures of speech. I mentioned it in my explanation about personification and imagery. Then you have metaphor, you have sensuous images, then you have alliteration as such, and those are things that you should be aware of, right? So I've included questions based on that for the MCQ. If you come to that on reasoning, if you look at the first one, Upagupta lay asleep in the dust by the city wall because. Now, if you see, because he was a wandering ascetic who had renounced all worldly pleasure, so when he reached Mathura, the only place that he could find for to rest was under the shade of the city walls. Very simple, right? Basic. So don't overthink. Just write what you understand. Now, the woman asked for forgiveness from Upagupta as not too much detail. She asked for forgiveness because what had happened? She had accidentally stepped on him and woken him up, right? Accidentally stepped on him and woken him up. And that's why she apologized, right? Nothing more than that. Yes, and the sound of, I mean, you want to write the sound of a anglers woke him up, you could add that. But that's it. Keep to the basic. Don't write too much, right? Mm, so I guess I'm not going to answer all of them because I really, really want you to answer. If you have doubts, you're most welcome to ask me questions of any of them. You try to solve it yourself and share your answers if you have doubts with any of them, and I will give you then the answer. But I really want you to think of the answers. That will help, right? Now, if you look at, then I've given you some 5 mark questions. Briefly describe the first encounter between Upagupta and the dancing girl. Now, if you look at the first encounter, it is when he's lying, right, lying down in under the ramparts of the city walls, and it's a dark and silent night. And there's got a sense of mystery that's being created, and the lamps and that usually light up the city have been blown off. It is a very sultry August night. The palace doors are closed. The stars are hidden behind the clouds, right? And in the silence of the night, in this darkness, there is this girl who's walking by the lamp, and accidentally she steps on this ascetic who is resting below the ramparts of the fort, and she stumbles on him, and she apologizes and wakes him up. Yes, and then of course her first thought is, this is not the bed for you. You are a gentle soul. You are meant to rest in a more comfortable place. Why don't you come home with me? Remember, she, though, I mean, ancient times, but a courtesan, a dancing girl, can invite a stranger home. But remember, this is no ordinary stranger. The minute she has flashed her light, she realizes it's an ascetic, right? And that's why this entire address, if like I mentioned about the adjective, he said, this is graciously come to my house. The dusty earth is not a fit bed for you. So uh, for you are a man of, probably of substance. You're a man who is no ordinary creature. So immediately that's one thing that she establishes. You're young, you're not ordinary. And so I would request you to come to my house. You're not meant to be out here on the street. And then probably the entire meaning of Obishar is reflected, and the tryst that you have in the title is reflected in the ascetics reply that you go home because this is not the time for me to be with you. A time will come, yes, then I will come to you. You don't have to invite me. So probably he makes a tryst then of what's going to happen, right? And that is also based on compassion. So we have love, we have compassion, and the first meeting establishes that, right? Now, if you look at the first question for 10 marks, analyze the theme of love as presented. Again, very much like the first 5 marks, but there you will have some factual details to give. In in this 10 mark, you will also have factual details to give, but you will be exploring the theme of love because Avishar is spreading love, and love, not the romantic love that probably Vasavadatta represents. That also is there, but it is more of a spiritual love. Yes, so your Vasavadatta and Upagupta, these two characters represent the two sides of the same human emotion that is love. One born out of worldly pleasures and the physical aspect of life, and the one romantic love that all of us are aware of, and the other, Upagupta, detached, ascetic, and knows that there is something called spiritual love, there is compassion. So the meeting of these two people actually takes the theme of love beyond the boundary, probably, of time and space and the world that we live in, right? So uh, it is through the theme of love and through the two characters that Tagore has so compassionately designed that it shows how love can transform the very existence. And that is exactly what happens when Upagupta comes to save Vasavadatta from the ignominy of a lonely death, right? So that is uh, the healing of the wound, bringing a dignity to her end, is the true essence of love, and that is the tryst that he keeps. He had a tryst with her, right? And he finally keeps his tryst. I mean, it always takes me back to the speech of Nehru on the eve of our independence, on the night of when India got independent, that when the world sleep, we have a tryst with destiny. When the world sleep, India rises to be a free nation, right? Tryst with destiny. And here you got a tryst with probably destiny that um, of Vasavadatta's destiny, that he would be there to give her a dignified death, to show her that there is compassion and love in this world. So, love that is uplifted by compassion and spirituality, with the ability to be empathetic. So, even you care for a person, even who is suffering from a deadly disease, who is thrown out of society. Um, Upagupta does not judge her by her past actions, by what she was, a dancing girl, probably looked down upon always, yes. But for him, she is a human being who deserves kindness and respect. And that is the love that is so strongly brought about by Tagore in this poem, right? So you talk about the characters, you talk about the contrast between the two, and probably Vasavadatta, who represents the human aspect, and probably also the one who fulfills, also the fulfillment of Upagupta's tryst, yes. Uh, and of course, Upagupta, who is the ideal ascetic, renouncing attachment, seeking enlightenment, and the best way to seek enlightenment is to help people overcome their suffering and find dignity, right? I've also put a question on the seasons of August and April. The setting of the poem is very important. There are two parts. I mean, you can divide the poem into two parts. The first part, which is foreshadowing what is to come. The first part is stormy, dark, because there the theme is of love that is material, the love that is born out of the common affection that we see in the world, right? And so we have this stormy night where everything is dark and hidden and clouded. She's clouded with her clouded. You know, her senses are clouded. Her probably her thoughts are clouded, and she's drunk with the wine of youth. That means her youth, the age that she is in, the profession that she is in, is very important for her at that point in time because she doesn't look beyond that. She lives in the present here and now, and she's an ordinary human being, and that's why she is that. She is not a saint, she is not Upagupta. So, uh, August, that part would be more of Vasavadatta and the murky skies and the storm and the lightning and the influence of nature and how everything becomes bitter and harsh and painful. And then you have April, where you bring in um, the second part of the poem, where of course April is a month of blooming, blossoming, and you have the festival of colors, the flowers, right? But it is also a contrast to the earlier storm. Probably April now is a moment of respite. The storm that has come in the life of Vasavadatta in the first half of the poem gets a balm in the form of a dignified death in the hands of Upagupta. So April is sort of brings forth the transformation in Vasavadatta's life because of Upagupta's kindness, compassion, and love. So she she's reborn. There's a renewal. That's renewal of life, and that is what April is. And finally, she gets the peace and happiness that every human being born on this earth deserves. And that is Tagore's universal thought, right? So, just a brief discussion. I hope you benefited by this. Like I said, please mm, keep asking questions. I will keep updating these questions, and if you want answers to some of them, do let me know. But I hope this has been a meaningful exercise and you've benefited. So I will move on to what I've decided is I'll do the first five poems that you need in grade 11 and then move to those, then the stories, and then Macbeth. So that's the way I'm progressing, right? So stay safe, all of you. See you very soon. Bye bye.